Hit record. All
I
right.
will monitor the chat groups and the raised hands for you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, happy Friday, wherever you are in the country or in the world. Welcome to MVP Office Hours on this first day of November. My name is Dale Ziegler. I am a Salesforce MVP based in Kansas City, and I am a senior business analyst with Seven Summits. And joining me is Jackie Travieso. Jackie, say hi, please.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that we are able to provide you with the resources and the answers that you are looking for, or at least connect you to the right people. I'm located in Charlotte, and I have my own little boutique um, consulting group. So if you're ever in Charlotte, look me up. Let's grab a beverage.
Fantastic. And then our third accomplice, Mr. Jared Kingston, also here in Kansas City, also Seven Summits, but he is actually on a client call right now, so he won't be able to join us this afternoon. But you can find any of us on the Twitters at those handles, as well as the MVP Office Hours handle, or you can go to mvpofficehours.info to get any general information about what we do here with the MVP Office Hours program and meeting times and all that good stuff. Over
And
here
Dale,
on,
before you go any further, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are we recording?
yes.
Oh, sweet. Okay, carry on.
All right. Over on the right, you will see links to how to get to all of the Salesforce events around the world, whether they are Salesforce-based, community-based, what have you. We like to call special attention to the community-based events here in this middle section that you can also go to bit.ly/sfdreams or OneList to get full information. But there's this little thing called Dreamforce in about 2.5 weeks. That is the mother of all Salesforce events. And then the community events are pretty much wrapped up for the year, and they pick back up again in spring with Southeast Dreamin' and all of those on down the line. But you can go to either of these sites and they're updated fairly regularly if there's an event in your region, or if you're looking to travel anywhere to go to an event, then that's where you can get your information. And then down here in the lower right, it focuses more on the local user groups or community groups. There are some that are admin based, some developer based, some that are general, but find a group near you to have that face-to-face contact with other people in your area. Like, for example, here in Kansas City, our next meeting is 2 weeks from yesterday. We have our registration site out in this space if you search Kansas City. So go search for your local area and connect with other local members of the Salesforce community. So everyone is encouraged to participate in this call. You don't have to be an MVP to answer a question, and even MVPs ask questions. We're all in this together. This is just something that we as MVPs put together to have open idea sharing and issue resolution, etc. So everyone is encouraged. We just ask that when you are not speaking, please just mute yourself, because there's always stray background noise or whatever. To ask questions, you can go to the chat, and there's a raise hand mechanism that Jackie is monitoring the chat and the participant list on that side. Or if there's just if there's dead silence, just feel free to unmute and speak up. But when you do speak, just announce yourself. What's your name? We can use the chat to post links and other resources. And with us using Zoom, we can have you share your screen. That often helps us a lot in helping get questions answered and problem solved. The only thing that we ask is, because this call is being recorded and it'll be shared on our YouTube channel later this evening or this weekend, is please, if at all possible, do not show your production instance. We don't want production data out there. So if you can show us either in a sandbox or in a developer org, that is the optimal. If we absolutely have to, then we'll go to production, but we want that to be our last resort. But you can share your screen so that we can see what you are working through. We do these calls on the first and third Friday of every month, so our next call will be in 2 weeks on Friday the 15th. Registration will always be available at this static bit.ly link. The recordings are posted to the community in Twitter and YouTube as well. I actually have the YouTube channel up here. If you just want to go search for MVP Office Hours and you can subscribe, you will get notifications of when the latest recording is up there. And we have every recording going all the way back to episode 2. There's still that lost first episode, but we have everyone since then. So go over there on YouTube and subscribe. Yeah. So MVPs, who all do we have? I see some names in here like Joy and obviously Jackie and myself and John. Who else?
Carlos here.
I see, yep, Carlos. I see Squire. Awesome. We got a good crew here today. MVP Office Hours is more than just what we have going here in the United States. There's a group in EMEA. And Carlos, do you want to take 2 seconds to talk about the Portuguese group?
Yes, thank you, Daryl. Yes, we meet the last Thursday of the month. Portuguese is not mandatory. I try to do the translation both ways. Yesterday, we had a fantastic event with Mayanka, which is one of the guys with the most certifications, about 30 certifications, and it was very helpful. So I recommended or invite everybody to have a chance to go in there. Again, Portuguese is not mandatory. English is fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. So I don't know if you're already thinking of it, but the last Thursday of the month is Thanksgiving. Are you going to modify that for November, or what's your plan for the next call?
Yeah, November, we're going to make arrangements in there. And if it's a holiday here in US or a holiday that would affect the Brazil or the Portuguese or Latin culture, I make arrangements for that.
Very cool. You don't miss a beat. All right. So with that, let's get the questions going.
Marty's got her hand up.
Hi, this is Marty.
Hi, Marty.
Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. Nice to hear you. So, quick question. First, I thought this was something that was true, and I realized either I dreamed it or it's a different application. But so take any large company. Let's just use Starbucks as an example. So you might have accounts with multiple levels of parents. Starbucks US, West, California, San Francisco, store 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it might be 3 or 4 levels. And the client I'm working with wants to be able to see all of the contacts related to any level and everything below them. So if they're looking at Starbucks California, for example, they'd want to see all the contacts.
But I mean, I don't say tons.
Excuse me?
I think we had some background noise. Sorry about that.
Sorry. So when I'm looking at related contacts at an account level in Salesforce, it's only showing me the contacts that are directly related to that account. Has anybody, and they really want to do it in an online way versus a report. So has anybody come up with any way of being able to do that?
So it's wanting to see all of the accounts in all of the related accounts. Contacts in all of the related accounts.
Correct.
Okay.
In that roll-up tree. If nobody has a quick solution, we can move on.
I mean, it would either through formula fields or through probably some code, the ability to loop through all of those account relationships. Where that gets rendered, if you don't want it in a report, that's another thing. But it would be essentially in a formula field on a contact, or on an account, you could traverse up to go parent to parent to parent, but you're having to do the opposite way down, which is where code's probably involved.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
What about the multi-relate contact functionality? You could use that. You'd have to do some automation to make sure it rolls all the way up, but you could do that.
Oh.
Because then no matter what tier you're at, you'd see them related as primaries, and then you'd see the below ones as tangential relationships. We're talking about a ton of records, though, aren't we? I mean, is this going to be unhandleable? Have they even realized what they're asking?
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Squire.
You're welcome.
All right, Bruno's got his hand up.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for
Hi.
all your support on this call. I have a quick question too. It's in regards to cases, for example. I'm wondering if there's a way to limit the size of an attachment, like a file, when we upload stuff to cases, because we've got an integration that sends files to a third-party site, to DevOps, and it taps out if we're sort of, getting up to 100 megs. So I'm wondering if there's a way to sort of say, 60 megs, that's the limit. You can't upload larger than that. I've got a little text message that requests it, but you know the way users are. So I'm just wondering if anybody knows of a way through components, maybe. We are using Lightning, so if there's any options there. Because I haven't found any.
To limit the size of the file.
Yeah, the size of the file that's uploaded into the case. I know you can request Salesforce to make it bigger. I think it's like in the gigabytes or something that could be max size, but I'm looking to keep it limited.
Right, but with something like that, you're querying the attributes of the file to then make a decision. Is that something that can be done even in the programmatic realm?
I imagine we could do it programmatically, yeah. I think that's the only way to do it, through code. But that would mean the file's uploaded first, right? And then something sort of bombs code-wise, right? Like a trigger.
I'm looking at people like Squire to potentially lean in on that one if they have any.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's got me stumped. I was hoping someone else beat me to it.
If
no
Squire,
worries if not. But
Squire or Terry Miller. Terry, I see you on there.
Yeah, I have no magic answer on that one either.
Okay, no worries. Just figured I'd ask. Thanks, everyone.
Great, thanks, Bruno. All right, Christy Acosta. You want to let her here? I can unmute you.
Hi.
Hi there.
So I am working on a flow, and can I share my screen? I can kind of just give you some background. So my flow is going to update record owner for the person account object, and it's drawing information. It has to match primary wealth advisor field, which is a pick list field.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got it. I got so far as to, like, it was tricky to be able to map correctly the person account address for the name, but I figured that out. Now I'm stuck at the point where I have a decision, because basically there are 128 options in this pick list. And but happily, only 11 exceptions where it does not map to an active user in Salesforce. So in my flow, I've gotten the records for all the active users. Then I got all of the person account records where the primary advisor name text does not equal the record owner name. So, and then from that, getting those records, I put a decision where it's yes or no whether the record owner, the new record owner, is an active Salesforce user or not. Does that make sense? Are you guys?
Yeah, I mean, you're mixing, comparing data to metadata there's a lot of apples, oranges, and bananas thrown into the equation here. I stopped sharing my screen, so you should be able to share yours if we want to start there.
Okay. Let me go there then. Oh, bear with me.
In terms of like your last point there where you said confirming if a new owner is active or not, you have to set some pretty special permissions to allow any record to be newly owned by an inactive user. So that may automatically weed itself out.
No, I have criteria they have to be active. And then I have this is, okay, maybe let me ask you this. Okay, maybe I should walk from the beginning of my flow.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my getting records, collection of user records. And this is probably my mistake. I'm a newbie at Flow, so I use the is active. true.
You are in a safe place. I will just say that.
All right. But this is where I get confused with flow. I'm not sure if everything is treated as and. I really want this to be profile ID equals or these two, because they can never be both, right?
Right. So when you're in this realm here, they have not introduced, to my knowledge, the mixed logic of ands and ors. It's all ands.
Okay, so then I'm stuck.
Well, really quick, but you could do a contains because no ID is going to be longer or shorter than those strings. So you would be a, oh no, it's still going to be an or, isn't it?
Well, so here's what you could do. You could, I would say, take all of your active users here. That's your first step. That's all you're getting here. And then immediately after, introduce a decision node that says where the profile is 8 UI or 1KK. When you get into the decision nodes, then you can start to mix your ands and your ors. So start by grabbing all the users, then move that out to a next step.
Okay, so that's where I can do the profile ID equals or. All right, so decision node for profile ID. All right, that's great. Okay.
Can I offer one other thought just because it gives me the chills? If you can get comfortable using either a custom setting or custom metadata instead of hard coding your profile IDs into your
don't worry, I had that. Well, I see what you mean. I had that in mind. Okay, I can do that. I did user IDs, but I will definitely not hard code. I promise. Okay.
Well, or I mean, it's still kind of hard coding things, but instead of saying where it's an ID, if you can query the profile object based on the name to then make the ID a variable. But yeah, last resort is usually hard coding your ID.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so how do I? This is the thing in Flow. I don't know how to get to name from. Like
it would be an additional get and decision. I would say for conceptual purposes, we can keep running with this or.
Okay, so
conceptually, let's get through this.
All right, so I understand how to use custom settings, and I was using that for user ID in a later formula. Okay, so that helps me. So let me get out of here. So then I got, this is my getting records for everything for person account. So I wanted to do person account true. And then this is that field, pick list field. And this is where I get fuzzy. The pick list field, I know in formulas, you always have to put it to text, but in Flow, does it see it as text and then will it treat it as a text string?
So what type of field is Primary Wealth Advisor PC?
Pick list field.
It is a pick list field, okay. And then how are you populating your value there of your variable of person account record owner name?
This is a formula. Let me show you the formula.
So with Flow formula fields, they don't necessarily operate the same as they do as formula fields do. A formula in a Flow is meant to take, like you couldn't, field references like that won't work.
Can I do that?
So then you're looking for a variable or some kind of Flow entity.
I see. So it's not a formula at all. Gotcha. So
right. That formula is trying to do some kind of a calculation or concatenation or whatever based on entities in the flow, not necessarily in an object or on a field outside of the flow. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So then basically I'm really trying to create a variable, right?
Yeah, that you need to so if you go back to hit cancel and go back to that one, yep.
Yep.
So.
Oh, I can't do it like that then.
Right. Something needs to populate a variable that you want to compare to whatever the value of.
Let me ask you
throw a
this.
thought out?
what if you put your formula on the contact or object directly that evaluates whether or not this condition is true or false, and then here just query that formula?
Oh, okay. So hidden formula on the contact object.
Yeah.
And then just have it look up to that. Oh, that's good. Okay, that's better. All right, so yeah, okay, so this one's not going to work. Basically, I mean, can you use in Flow cross-object references? Or like,
Oh, yeah.
How do you do that? Maybe I don't know how to do that part.
So the thing to keep in mind, especially in Flow and when you're referencing like lookup fields and master detail fields, all that kind of stuff, is you're playing with the ID of that parent record, not necessarily a name or a text value or anything. So it's the first thing you'd have to do, like just for the most basic of basic relationships, we'll say accounts to contacts. The contact has an account parent. It has an account field. When you query the contact record, you're grabbing the account ID, the 001. Then you go into a new, do what?
Now let's get back to account object, because this is a person account, so there's no, I'm not dealing with a contact here, am I?
No, sorry, I was giving a general example of how
Okay.
how cross references work in a Flow. Sorry about that. So
So say if you're doing a person account cross reference and I want to get the owner name, how do I get there?
So if you know you want to know the owner name, you would get the owner ID of that particular person account record.
Okay.
And then your next step would be do a get from the user object where owner ID equals user ID, and then take that name and pass it into a text variable to then go back and compare to your primary wealth advisor pick list field. Because I'm assuming your primary wealth advisor is a list of users.
Correct, but it's not 11 of our exceptions where they don't match. And then I was going to use a case formula, so I cannot do that in.
If you had all the time and energy in the world, I would honestly say figure out how to replace that pick list with a user lookup.
Oh.
And that's where I was starting to say you're comparing data to metadata. The metadata is your pick list. The list of users is data. So that's where you start to compare apples to oranges. If you can reconcile that pick list to a user lookup, you're going to cut a whole bunch of technical debt out.
I know. Okay, let me ask if that would be possible. I understand that totally, because I thought you could translate from ID to text and through cross-object references, but evidently.
Oh, you can. It's just not advisable. Because what happens when someone gets married, for example? Well, not only is that user record's last name going to change, but then you have to know to go into that list of pick list options to go update Smith to Jones. You're having to touch multiple things. Also hope that somebody doesn't fat finger or insert a middle initial, things like that. You're managing in multiple places. Versus if it's all on the user object, you touch it once and it'll all reconcile automatically.
Okay, that seems to me that's the simplest, to cut everything into a user lookup for that field. Okay. Well, let me go back to the drawing board and see if that could be decided.
And I'm more than happy if you want to send, so again, Dale Ziegler, if you want to find me in the community and send me a message, I'd be more than happy to give you some pointers along the way, or if you want to pick my brain on anything.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Good questions, Christy. Thank you. Okay, it looks like Brittany has a question. Brittany, I'll unmute you.
Thank you, everybody. So we touched on this a bit with Christy's question, but I came to office hours interested in knowing best practices when referencing like roles and profiles. Like you had just mentioned that custom metadata types need to be set up for that. And I don't know where to start or how to do that.
I guess it first comes down to what's your actual use case, because if you don't, like, I love custom metadata types, but if there's something simpler, what's your use case?
Yes, the business use case is I want to build a flow to stamp a lead record on who was responsible for that lead. So we have a concierge team that is responsible for qualifying the lead, which has a separate role ID. And we have a few profile IDs that would identify reps who are responsible for actually closing the sale. And they're marked as first rep assigned on that lead.
And like first rep assigned can only be within a certain role or a certain profile?
Correct, because we wouldn't want like admin users or like manager users being stamped as first rep assigned just because they touched a record.
So what you could potentially do is, I'm assuming you're not using the owner field for that, right? It's a custom field?
Oh, it is the current user.
Right, but where is that information actually being stored? Is it on the owner field or is it on a custom field?
The owner field, I think.
Okay. So that...
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. They're two different custom fields. We have a qualifier custom field and a first rep assigned custom field.
So, and you're trying to do this in, okay. You may not need to go to a flow. I'm trying to think of this on the fly unless, you know, anybody else says I'm wrong for not thinking of flow.
That's what I was thinking.
Was to go to a flow. So what the actual need is to populate a custom field, custom lookup to user with the user who is actually manipulating the record at that time.
Yes. So I already have like the flow built and done. It's just that I'm referencing role IDs, which sounds like a bad best practice. And I couldn't even get profile IDs to work because it seems like when you put in a role ID, like you need to pull that off the URL. And I tried putting in the profile from a URL and that didn't work. So I just want to know the best practice for referencing like roles and profiles in a flow.
Well, so, I mean, I'm wondering.
I can share my screen if you think that'd be
Yeah, let's see what you have so far, because I'm wondering if you even need to go to a flow. If it's just simply at the point that a record is created or updated and that running user is in that certain role, then you can just do a process builder to populate it, not even get into flow.
Yeah.
But, oh, you got a lot more then.
Yeah, it's a little more complicated. So this top part isn't done, so you should like focus on the bottom part. Yeah, there's like this positioning logic that we're using like free email domains versus like business email domains, and the main part is here. Like once we get to an unqualified stage, then the first rep assigned should be marked, and the qualifier should be marked. So I have like this method to identify the reps, and I just feel like it's probably bad practice.
So how are you getting into this flow to begin with? Is it through a process builder, or what engages this flow?
Yes, process builder launches the flow.
So let's start with that.
Sure. So it's just looking for, sorry. I'll find the right one. Oh, disposition lead, there we go. It's just looking for when the do not pursue reason is changed.
Okay.
And it's pulling in the current lead ID as the ID to then launch the flow.
So go back to the process builder, please.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. No, you're good. I don't want you to have to create a new version, but you might have to. But I believe, somebody check me on this one, in that list of variables to pass from the process builder into the flow, you can capture the running user ID.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a formula, like everything works just fine, unless that's bad practice.
Best practice is to break down the things you're trying to do into as many small steps as possible. Part of which is if part of the process needs to take the running user, and you can capture that on the process builder end of things because process builder knows who's running the flow, do it there and then pass it into a variable. Does that make sense?
Bad practice just to put in a formula to figure that out in the flow.
Flow's already trying to do so many other things that if you can take some of that burden off of the flow and shift it somewhere else, you might have a more effective and efficient running process.
Oh, okay.
If I could add one other thing too, I think best practice, there's like a lot of weight to those two words. If it were a hard, fast rule, it would be stated that way. Everything we're recommending is just to make sure that over time, when changes occur, you don't have to keep modifying a process or try to unravel the nest. You want to make it so that as changes happen, specifically say you need to add another role or another profile or whatever, you can just add a data record or something rather than have to modify an entire flow to handle the new criteria. That's really the only best practice I've ever recommended. The rest of it is kind of up to whether you want to manage it, I think. I'm open to suggestions, but that's how I take it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Best practice is very subjective and relative, but with an example of like capturing the running user. So it's important to also know why Salesforce put certain functionalities in certain places. And so where I say that is if from Process Builder, there is, if there's a pull down or a pick list option that says, I want the user ID to be the running user ID. If Salesforce explicitly makes that available in Process Builder, that means it's standard functionality. They've worked out all the kinks from a DML perspective, from a formula engine perspective, from all the moving pieces perspective to say they support it. Versus in a flow, if you're creating a formula field that says go look at who the running user is, you're customizing it actually rather than configuring, and it's actually putting more burden on the formula engine, on the order of operations, on all the things when you create a custom formula to do that. Again, versus Process Builder, if it asks you explicitly, hey, do you want to use the running user? That's Salesforce saying we've worked out the bugs. Here's a very lightweight way to do it.
Got it. Thank you.
So if Process Builder lets you leverage that to pass into a variable, that's potentially one less thing to take out of all of your nodes on flow. To then go evaluate, I know the user ID, I can go query what's their role ID, what's their profile ID. If their role ID is in or out of a set of rules that's allowed to populate this field, you can make a decision off of that. It's just it's balancing the load.
Okay, I see. And then where do you actually get the profile ID so that way they'll work in the flow? Because I've noticed that there's some nuances with like role IDs and profile IDs in here that I haven't found good documentation to explain.
So role ID and profile ID are native fields on the user object. So when you have that, either that owner ID or the running user ID, whatever, it's just user role ID is the name of the field on the user object, or user profile ID. And then it returns the ID of that particular record. Then you can go query the role object or the profile object if you need to get its name or any other additional attributes to it. But if you have defined your business rules to say only this particular role can do things or this role can't do things, that's what you can then start to put behind the decision nodes in the flow to say, if this role is one of the good ones, then great, there's your happy path. If it's not, you're not on happy path, you're on the exception where you block it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The big thing with flow is just understanding needing to cover all your bases, the happy path and the exception path. So it really does force you to think like a developer. I mean, that's why they call it the code cliff. Bringing development into Process Builder and Flow is, all right, you can do this point and click. Now you have to cover all your bases. Anywho.
All right, great. Thank you so much for those questions, Brittany. Looks like Jeremy posted a question in the chat. Jeremy, do you want to unmute yourself? Or I can find you in our list. I wonder, let's see if this is Jeremy, because this is just a phone number. Jeremy, can you hear us? Doesn't look like it. Okay, let's go ahead and just take his question and see what kind of guidance we can give him. Hopefully he's still on the line. He says he's having an issue importing articles into Sandbox. He's getting the error invalid file path for the rich text area field.
Jeremy, if you can hear us, can you share your screen? If you're potentially unmutable.
And we may need to just reach out to him through community and see if we can give him some help if he's not able to unmute.
I actually don't see him on the participant list anymore. He may have either
dropped
or been
okay.
dropped.
Okay. There was one phone number listed, so I wasn't sure if that was him or not. Okay. I think, does anyone else have a question? If not, I can put something out there because I'm looking for a best practice. When you have an org that has an existing round of permission sets that may not be maybe logically named, how do you all go about peeling apart that permission set to dive into the 13 different headers to see which little checkboxes are checked? What is the fastest way to do that?
So you know something has been granted because of a permission set, but you need to know which permission set did it.
Yep, I need to know what is in the permission sets.
Maybe, let's see, dive into old friend Workbench here, and if anybody
it's been a while since I played with the app Octopus, but I know that breaks up a lot of the metadata, so you could use that to kind of pull out a chart, maybe. I have to go and see if that's available for permission sets, though.
Okay. Is that an app exchange?
Yeah, it's a free one called Octopus.
Octopus is awesome also for documentation.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. I love it.
Okay. I will check that one out. I figured that there had to be some quick way.
So what you can potentially do also is permission set is an object.
Can you share your screen?
I thought it was. Yeah, I can. You can't see just
I can't
through my words. Okay.
Thank you.
Permission set is it's queryable through Workbench or Data Loader or Dev Console or your favorite data extract tool. And then these are all Booleans, true falses. So you could potentially, if you know which permission it is that you're looking for. So like what's the permission you're looking for?
I just want to know what is in an org I've never been in before. So they'll have a laundry list of permission sets. How do I peel that apart?
So Squire and I both put a link in the chat window that is really helpful for that.
Oh, Perm Comparator. Awesome. Yeah, that's an awesome one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Didn't even think about that.
That's a great one for just comparing side by side too. Maybe you're trying to get a holistic view, but also if you want to know why A and B are, why is there two of them, it's a great way to put them side by side.
Okay. Thank you for that reminder.
We're in the middle of an exercise just like this at Baird, and so it's near and dear to my heart. So I was excited to hear you ask that question.
Oh, good. I figured I was not the first one to come up against this. So, okay, that's what I needed. Thank you so much. I will check out Octopus and Perm Comparator. Thank you, guys. All right, who else has a question? We've got about 20 minutes left. Anyone looking for a resource? Anyone having any issues with Winter 20 features or functionalities?
Don't mind me. I'm just going to write random SOQL queries here.
All right.
Really quick one. I think the answer is no, but has anyone ever dealt with trying to reassign not personal, but private calendar events to a public calendar. So in short, when you create an event and then you sign it to yourself or whoever, once you've done that, you can't edit that and change it to a public calendar or reassign it with a flow. It's not like when you like on a task where you can change the related object. Once you've done it, it like sticks, and I can't figure out what's keeping you from doing that, because we have a process in place that we need to be able to take a personal one and drop it onto a public one when certain current things happen.
I ran into that same problem. I don't have a solution for you, Squire, but I just want to say I'm in your same boat. I couldn't assign it to a public calendar using Flow or Process Builder, no matter how hard I tried.
So we've been able to do that. We can assign a brand new one. We just can't reassign.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there might be something in a recent release that allowed you to have access to public calendars, because it feels like that was always a thing, but we have it working now. It's just only on a brand new one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you checked out known issues? Is there anything out there?
We haven't gotten that far yet. We were kind of hoping that there was something we could cobble together with Flow or Process before we look for a bug, but it might be there.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have a question? Anything you're struggling with? I don't see any other hands raised.
What's Dreamforce?
What's Dreamforce? It's a fire hose of information over a 4-day period where you don't get any sleep and you blow away all of your fitness goals through miles and miles of walking.
Sign me up.
Yes, it's the best. It's where you get the best swag too.
Indeed.
Yes.
Jade has a question in the chat. Question related to the account hierarchy and opportunity partner pros and cons. Jade, can you unmute?
Hi, can you hear me? I'm in a really loud place.
We can hear you, yeah.
Okay, so we have a lot of related accounts. We're trying to figure out whether we want to do a parent-child hierarchy or if we want to do partner, creating partners on the opportunity. There's a place for that, related list. So I didn't know if anyone has worked with either or, and if one's better than the other, and what the pros and cons are, if anyone knows.
I mean, a general answer to that, going back to the best practices earlier, is if Salesforce offers it natively, try your hardest to use it. But there's always a little bit of research to be done and proof of concept to know, will it actually meet all of your needs? So like take, for example, I like to throw out account teams as an example, that it's great because it extends security to other users and additional objects and everything. But until recently, you couldn't fire any automation off of it. Like, it just became automation friendly. So with things like the account hierarchy and opportunity partner, you're going to get a lot of supported goodies from Salesforce, but read up on them in help and training to know the limitations. That will those limitations be a non-starter for your actual use case.
Okay, thank you.
And if anybody else has anything on that, I didn't mean that to be the end of it.
I don't know if I misunderstood, but I see account hierarchy and opportunity partners as two different things. The account hierarchy being headquarters and various site locations, whereas the opportunity partner would be somebody who's working the deal with you or referred the deal or some kind of a referral source. So I don't know if I missed something there, but I guess my statement would be, consider using the native functionality for what it's actually intended for, in most cases, rather than repurposing it without being able to relabel it.
Yeah,
Because
there's
you
that.
gotta, yeah, you got to think about who's going to come in behind you and work in that org as well, and trying to peel it apart. So my best practice is always call it what it is. Try to stay away from, you know, acronyms and such, because that also helps with your training time, ramping up your new employees' training time. So.
Right.
All right. Thank you
I
for
have
that,
a
Jade.
I
Go
have
ahead.
a point in regards to just account teams and such. I'm dealing with a sales team right now who this really isn't a question. It might just be me crying in my beer, but owners are not important on any record. They don't care about owners on the account, on the opportunity, on the contact, or even their project, their custom objects that's there. So I've spent hours trying to set up teams on the additional custom objects of project and contact so they can maintain everything. But now we're going through and doing analytics, and I'm like hitting a brick wall or having to build a new record type every time, because it's not about the owner, it's about whether or not you're on the team of it, and destroying a lot of people's older dashboards and reports. So that's not really a question. You guys can't save me on this one. I talked to him until I was blue in the face. This is a bad idea, but really don't know where else to go on it.
No, but I think, John, I think that goes back to the point, though, that Jade, as you're exploring account hierarchy, opportunity partner, any of those, it's what's your use case that has you considering those, to where if you know what the limitations of those functionalities are, like for John's example, once he gets into reporting and dashboards and everything, there's a lot of broken things. If you know the limitations of those functionalities, that's going to help you make a decision of whether or not you can use them, or if you need to make something custom. And it takes research. It takes throw it in a developer org, throw it in a sandbox, whatever. But break it. That's what it's there for. Is if you can try and break it and it still stays intact, then that's the solution for you. If it breaks because it won't meet your needs, then that's where you go custom. Because it's more than just I turned the thing on. It's all the downstream effects as well.
Yep. Thank you, Dale. We've got time for another question. Brittany's got one. She's put in the chat. Brittany, if you want to unmute yourself, we can have a discussion.
Yes, so for the life of me, I cannot figure out how to get the email tab to show up in the case activity panes in a sandbox. So I've tried like turning on the email deliverability, access to all email, and adding the email to the activity history, and nothing's working.
Have you played with your actions? I believe that's where that is actually
on the global action.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can send an email off a global action. I just can't get that tab to show up.
What about
the global or a record action?
So on the global action, I can email. I have that button. When I'm trying to email off the case record, I can't get the email tab to show up.
Are you record typing on the activity on either tasks or events?
So yes, there are two case record types.
So I think record type is is a hurdle in that.
I think it's trying to think. Even if you've got record type on the case, isn't that where it breaks down?
No, it's on the activity.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
And I know you have to have deliverability, all deliverability turned on, or it will send it from a record.
There's also a permission in your profiles to send email.
Yeah, that's on. Yeah, because I can send an email.
I thought it was case because you have to create a button for every specific record type that you want to have on the activity or email or event type to, but I'm trying to catch up with you there.
It could be. I remember a scenario that I had with a client where their particular instance, once I turned off all the record types on activity, that made the email tab appear. But I may have also been in a just one record type parent object. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't have any other record types on activity, and it's weird because I only have like one record type for lead, and the email button doesn't show up on there either.
Yeah, I'm almost certain if you create a custom architect for the object, you have to create a custom button in Lightning for an event or a task in order for that to show up in the Lightning button list.
Okay.
You run across that problem a lot in the financial services cloud, just because they've got so many different types of record types that you're trying to identify. If you forget to set that, it's just gone.
Sorry, I completely forgot to ask. Lightning or Classic? Who's the Lightning?
Lightning.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's so silly. Okay, so I got it to work on the lead. So yeah, you just have to make that custom button in order to get it to work in the sandbox. Oh.
Okay.
All right, well, good discussion. I think we're about 8 minutes out. Any other questions? If not, there is no reason why we can't give you 8 minutes back on your Friday. Dale, do you have any closing remarks?
Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. And yeah, if you're in a part of the country that's super cold right now, warm wishes to you. I'm feeling it too. And we'll talk in 2 weeks on the 15th.
Great, thanks. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers.